Welcome to The Blissful Life, a podcast where we awaken the wisdom of self and explore the lessons, the rituals, and the pathways to inner bliss. I'm your host, Regina Lawless, former corporate executive turned author and spiritual teacher. And I'm on a mission, y'all, to help people connect to and express their divine self so they can make their unique impact on the world. If you've been feeling like there is more to life than the hustle and grind, then you found your tribe. It's time to breathe and relax into the blissful life. Hey, welcome back to The Blissful Life. I'm your host, Regina Lawless, and I am so excited for today's guest. Y'all are going to love her. Let me tell you a little bit about her before I welcome her into The Blissful Life. So Leslie Lew, known globally as the warrior, y'all. She is an international keynote speaker, humanitarian coach, and 3-time author. And we're going to talk about one of her books today. So I'm excited to jump into that. She is a trailblazing women's self-defense expert dedicated to empowering women and marginalized communities. As the founder of Reclaiming Your Courage and co-founder of the Warrior Queens Rise movement, Leslie leads with a powerful mission to help or to equip moms and femmes with strength, tools, and confidence to protect their children and themselves always. Welcome to the show, Leslie.
Yay, area!
Right?
What's up, Regina?
I love it. My fellow Yay Area queen, and we're gonna get into that because both being born and raised in the Bay Area, we're gonna get to it. We're gonna talk about it. Like I love to start the show, I wanted to tell the audience how we met. And what's interesting is when we first met, the Yay Area came up. We were both at a conference speaking in Toronto. And I remember being in the audience as you were giving your powerful talk. And we'll, of course, talk more about what you do. But I was like, okay, first of all, I love this lady off top because your energy. And then I think you came out to, I forget what song you came out to, but it was Bay Area. And I said, oh, hometown girl.
Yes, okay, yeah, I have deja vu because I was like, this is how our relationship started. I remember I'm like, if I don't like the energy in the room, like, I'm gonna raise it up. You sit at a conference for a long time. So I remember coming from the back
Yes.
because that's always like how I like to do. And it must have been Too Short or something. It's
It was
always Too Short or some California love.
right. It might have even been California Love. I can't remember, but I just remember you and the energy that you brought and me just learning from jump that you were from the Bay Area. So I was like, okay, I already know. Like, I already know I'm going to like her because
Because she's hella Bay. I remember, right? Because she's hella Bay, right? I remember coming over to your table, and I always lead with that, though, right?
Yeah.
People, you know, people have a perception of me when I'm at those things, right? I
Yeah.
think I was wearing a very modern, traditional, like Chinese dress,
Yes, you
right?
were.
Because I
Yeah.
like to
It's
honor
beautiful.
culture, right?
Yeah.
And then people are like, I do not expect that sound, right? That music coming from that mouth and that volume coming from an Asian female like you. And I always like to, I mean, there's been times that I've been in conferences and that's been great. I high five everybody, I bring the energy up. But what's consistent is that even when I've spoken at other places and that bird just fell from the ground, and I'm just like, you know what? I like to turn it around. I like to set the tone.
You definitely set the tone. And I have to believe that comes from growing up in the Bay Area because one thing you can say about us is that we're going to be Bay to the end. we're gonna be like, when people are from the Bay Area. So I would love to hear from you, and I'll of course share my thoughts. But what's your favorite part of being a Bay Area native and like growing up here?
Whew, it's the Bay is in my bones.
Yeah.
And so I grew up surrounded by diversity, not just
Yes.
in race and culture, but in thought, in identity, expression. And it taught me early on that being different is a gift and that truth
Hmm.
telling and justice are non negotiables. And the Bay Area raised me to be bold, to speak up, and to fight for what's right. And that still fuels the fire in everything that I do. And so I think that the energy and the art and the way that we express ourselves here and the pride that we feel, right? And that's why like people don't get it if you're not from the Bay, but if
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
hella Bay, I'm like, man, the roots of like our culture and sports here, hip hop
Hmm.
culture for sure, and just like the roots in like social activism and how strong we got it going on up here. I'm
Yes.
like, it's not matched.
I couldn't agree more. I think I love how you said the pride and the expression. I would say those are two things that definitely categorize the Bay for me. There's such hometown pride being born and raised here, and almost like this underdog spirit too, because we know how dope we are. but, but we don't get the credit we deserve for the roots. Like you said, there's so much political activism, social activism, there's so much creativity, the slang, like there's so much culturally that the Bay has given to the world that I don't think we get our just due. So I think that that's okay because we know that we're unique and we know we bring a flavor everywhere we go. So I love my fellow Yay area natives, and that's for sure one of the things that I was drawn to you about because you show up as Bay Area through and through.
Love you too, girl. That's why I was like,
Right?
hella Bay, we are we gonna be we're already connected.
We're already connected, and that strong, like multicultural, like growing up in the Bay Area, you know that there's a strong diversity. There's a strong community of growing up with everybody. So there's this intertwined like Black and Asian connection too, growing up in the Bay Area that I think is unique.
Of
So
course. I think
yeah.
people and I just wanted to pause for a second because that if I have a sociology background, right? And I'm like, I always like to bring up history. And I'm like,
Hmm.
later when we talk about my work rooted in Asian hate, and false narratives between the Black community and the Asian community, I
Hmm.
tell people, I'm like, I don't support that narrative because
Right.
in my entrepreneurship journey, Black women have always showed up for me and
That's
Black
right.
men. And historically, the Black community has always uplifted the Asian community when you look back to like the Black Panther Party. And like,
Yes. Yes.
I have to, that pride we're talking about, it runs so deep than just having fun. I'm like, no, this is how movements and history has been made in the Bay Area that I think that gets lost because I don't know people who aren't from here. Like it's almost like that legacy is dissipating a little bit, I want to say.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it does get lost. And I think there is a concerted effort to pit different groups together, especially different marginalized groups, different communities that have historically been underrepresented. There is narratives to pit us against each other, but that has not been my experience as well. I grew up with, being surrounded in neighborhoods with Asian and Hispanic or Latinx, whichever y'all prefer, because I'm a firm believer. I think we impose language on people, so whichever you prefer to go by. that's always been something special about growing up. So I see us all in this together. So that's dope. That I can't wait to talk more about the work that you do with communities. So before we go there, you started this movement, Reclaiming Your Courageous Business, that you are a founder of, CEO of. Before that, though, you worked in corporate. And I know we also have that in common. We did the corporate grind. So I want to, for the benefit of the audience, to hear more about the work that you did in corporate and how did that experience or how does that experience shape the work that you do today?
Woo, it bleeds through everything. So for about almost nearly 20 years now, in my corporate life, I started from the bottom and I worked my way up to the top because I had to leave school and provide financially for my mom and my brother, very low income family. So literally cleaning bathrooms at gyms, working in four-star hotels, right? Being a telephone operator, and then advancing up to like sales, administrative, and then eventually made my way into tech. And so my background is as an executive assistant. So very much of that corporate life and that climbing and that cultural programming of overachieving
Ooh,
um, was really about, man, let me just keep going. And what's interesting is that being an executive assistant, you are behind the scenes lifting up the whole roof for everybody.
yes.
You're the strategist, you're the glue, you're the calm in the chaos. But I that identity was very much tied into making other people look good
Yes.
and letting other people dictate my time.
Mm,
And so it bleeds into everything that I do today and who I serve and who I help and the way that I communicate. And that corporate life made me actually sick.
mm.
It made
Let's talk
me,
about it.
yeah, I'm
Ugh,
not talking metaphorically. Like and when I used to work in hospitality, I like to tell the story of the Devil Wears Prada. And I worked in a four-star hotel in downtown SF. And there was an Asian woman who mentored me to try to raise me up in the sales and marketing org. And man, I remember moments where I'd be at the table and she would get a red pen and she's like, she drew a bell curve and she said, Leslie, some people are up here. I just think that you're slower and you're down here.
oh my God. So you worked for the real life Miranda, whatever
Yeah,
her
I'm
name
serious.
is.
The Devil Wears Prada was my life. Like
Wow.
literally
Wow.
Hermes bag on my desk, right? Like that when that movie came out, and I was young at the time and just trying to make money for my family and I didn't
Yeah.
have a backbone. I was like, oh, I guess you're right. But looking
Mm,
back on it, it's because I didn't do things her way. And
yes.
so it didn't mean what I was doing was wrong. It's just that it wasn't done. So that was the illusion of mentorship with
Mm,
just like, you need a dog to follow you, right? You want someone to follow you to these lunches and these dinners and this stuff. But there was one day where I ended up in the doctor's office because I was getting so sick. Like I couldn't eat. I was like throwing up. And I remember sitting across from a doctor during my break and they're like, you have an ulcer.
mm.
And I said, oh, okay. Just give me whatever I need to like do my pill. Like,
Right. Is that some Tums? Do I need some
yeah,
like
yeah, whatever. I was in so much physical pain, but just couldn't,
mm,
my body and my mind was so disconnected, right?
mm.
And so the doctor said, so ulcers really stem from you suppressing and keeping things in. And so it was a combination of like an ulcer and gas acid reflux. Um, and I had to eat bland food for like 6 months. Like there was a lot that I didn't, um, stomach down. And the doctor was like, if you don't find a healthy means of managing your stress and your emotions, you've got holes in your stomach. Like you can bleed out
Oh my gosh, Leslie. Wow.
and
Uh,
have like some toxic poisoning or I'm not familiar with the terminology. And that led me to like some real breakthroughs and changes. And all I remember from that specific job is like I quit, I cashed out my 4K, and I straight eat, pray, love that, and went to India with a girlfriend.
Yes, yes. I feel like that could be the whole next hour of this podcast, but we're gonna we're gonna go back to, you said some really powerful things in that example that I want to touch on. So, just this theme of how corporate makes us suppress so many things so often. At least I relate to that as my experience, and I've heard that from countless other people. And similarly to you, I had a series of illnesses, but at this one particular point in my career, I was breaking out in hives for no discernible reason. I had never had hives before. I went to the doctor similarly, thinking, just give me some cream or give me some. Is there Benadryl that I like? Let's just come on. I got to get back to work. And they didn't have any other explanation for it other than stress. And when you gave the example of the ulcers and how that's related to suppression, I really do feel that that was the case for me as well. That at the time I was in my first global leadership role, I felt like I was in under my head. I didn't have someone to really mentor me and show me what was what. So I was figuring out so much on my own. And then my father was diagnosed with cancer that year. I had all kinds of issues with my employees. So I was suppressing all of these emotions and just like, nope, I got to show up. I got to lock it in. I have to take care of my family. I've got to take care of my team. And then the body was like, girl, no, like, I don't know what you thought, but there's something really, really wrong here. And so I appreciate you sharing your story of how, whether it's corporate or anywhere else, we are masking and suppressing, our body is going to let us know that that's happening. And so, knowing that about your experience, I wonder, and maybe this doesn't have to do with how you got into martial arts, but I'm curious, is there a connection between you suppressing so much and then learning how to empower yourself?
Woo, that's a philosophical question,
And
girl.
it's a question.
I love how deep you go. Woo. So let's unpack that. I think there's a couple of facets, right? And I think of an onion, right? So for me and anybody watching this, I think that there's some intersectionality depending on, what culture you come from, but I'm just speaking from the lens as an Asian American. So I think there's a couple of layers of cultural expectations and
Mhm.
narratives, right? So I think that again, you don't express any of that. You don't let people know. Like if I were to ask for help, I would be seen as weak. If I were
Mhm.
to, once I told my mother I was going to therapy, she's like, "What? Are you crazy?"
Right.
Right?
That's the perception.
And
Yep.
community, right? Like you can't hack it. You're failing as a mother, as a partner, or whatnot. So that's one lane in my freeway that I was experiencing. And then there's also the pathway of like suppressing. I'm like, well, who I am and who I'm becoming isn't in alignment with what I've been told to do, right? Like be the doctor, be the lawyer, be impressive that I work for this company,
Yeah.
so that my family could show me off, right? So there's like, my body is already fighting itself. And then when it comes to martial arts, what is interesting is that martial arts saved my life spiritually,
Mm.
mentally, and emotionally. But when I think about corporate and when I think about martial arts, here's what I'm going to challenge. We are still talking about systems and
Mhm.
institutions. And so the connection and the intersectionality for me is like in my corporate life and in my martial arts world, right? I'm two-time martial art, like two-time black belt, been a martial artist for over 20 years.
Wow.
That's like that's like having two PhDs,
Yeah.
or having a
Right?
really impressive like corporate like job. Okay. So
Yeah.
there's parallels there. But what's interesting is that even within that, even within martial arts, there is beauty and there's community, but there's still systems of oppression and patriarchy.
I could imagine. Yeah.
Right. And then it was at the time, it was a very male dominated, art way of life. And so even my approach to it and the system I created and what I currently treated people went against everything. So here I am in a
Mm,
corporate life. It's like, okay, here's this institution and systems oppressing me. And here I am finding my voice and finding a different way to teach, which we're going to talk more about, which is
yes.
really more holistic instead of
Hmm.
just focused on physical, and me challenging men in the field. And not
Hmm.
all men are bad and not all male
Right.
teachers are bad, but really just challenging and saying like, well, what about consent around touch? Or just starting to question and to challenge things and to be an independent thinker. So what I'm really trying to relate here is like my body and my gut was just starting to look at things differently and starting to speak and being retaliated against for following my voice and my heart and my intuition and my spirit.
Mm, 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 mm. That that's something that I am working on. I'm working on a program, and those who follow me will get to learn more about it in the coming weeks and months. But you said something that really resonated with me is this embodiment and us coming back to our power and our intuition, especially as women. We are taught that we have to be powerful externally, which is really force, as opposed to this well internal strength that we have, and all the intuition and creativity that we bring as women. And before we talk about, I want to talk more about your speaking internationally, but staying on this topic of the martial arts, as a two-time black belt, which girl, what? Hats off. Um, it's interesting. You're teaching women self-defense and empowerment using these martial arts skills. Talk more about the empowerment that you found in your own body and fighting against these systems. Why is that the perfect um, modality in your mind to help women with empowerment? Like, why did you choose martial arts as the vehicle to teach women empowerment?
Mm, great question. I feel like I didn't choose. I feel like ancestrally I've been called.
Mm,
And as
okay, wow.
and as I've been tapping more into myself spiritually, um, and people are like, who the heck are you calling yourself warrior? I feel like that is my purpose.
Mhm.
And it's not until I became a mother and until I wanted to start disrupting generational trauma and patterns that I learned that the real fight isn't always on the street, it's internal.
Mhm.
And so I feel like martial arts principles and skills can be applied to every area of women's lives. And so I use martial arts not to teach fear, but to teach embodiment,
Mhm.
awareness, and power. I teach women how self-defense is much more than physical moves. It's very much about how you stand in your power. It's very much how you communicate nonverbally. It's how you communicate with boundaries, right? And you assert yourself. And that's really different than what people know about martial arts. But
Yeah.
because I have this vision, because I love martial arts so much, I can apply a principle about martial arts and apply it to business, corporate life, and relationships.
Mm.
And so people are like, what? And I'm like, let me show you something. Let me show you how the concept of leverage over strength, for example. And I think you saw some of this in Toronto,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Drop it like it's hot, things like that. I want to challenge women's viewpoints that they're not strong enough because women are, especially women of color, are told it's either we're too much, we're too strong, or we're not
Yes.
strong enough,
Or we're not
right?
strong enough.
And
Yes.
so one of the warrior principles I teach is leverage over strength, which is
Mm.
you do not have to be the biggest person in the room, the most muscular. Okay. So if I can teach a woman like, hey, here's what you do if someone's about to snatch you and throw you in a car, right? And
Mm-hmm.
you've seen me demonstrate that. And I'm
Yes.
like, let's take that same skill that I just taught you and let's say how that applies to how we leverage our breath when we're navigating uncomfortable conversations.
Yes.
Let's talk about how we leverage and harness the power of community
Mm.
to support our businesses, to keep ourselves and our communities safe,
Mm. I
right?
like
And then that's where my work, I feel, is expansive. And that's why I created a method. And it's not something that's traditional because people
which
come and they're like, hey,
right.
where you look at this stuff? And I,
Like they want to do Cobra Kai. They're like, how?
yeah, camera, I love, right? And so what I'm working on in keynotes, workshops, and retreats and my eventual book is like, okay, even if you are not fearful of getting physically attacked, learning that skill is still going to help you with people that you love, difficult
Mm.
conversations at work, and the same applies to a stranger on the street that might be crossing your space.
Yes. And what I love about your approach, because I did get a chance to get a sample of it in Toronto, it was not fear based. I felt so empowered because one of the things that you showed us was how to stand and take up space and hold our core and how to be immovable. And that exercise stuck with me because I have never been taught that before, how to hold my space. And especially as women, particularly if you're working in corporate, often we are socialized to shrink. We are, socialized to, oh, give up the chair so someone else can sit in that place and we're in the corner or around, in the background of the table or somehow in the background doing the work and not holding our space, holding our center, proclaiming that I am here and I am powerful. And I loved feeling that power in myself. I surprised myself. I was like, wait a minute. I didn't realize just holding that core. And so I think it's so beautiful, Leslie, that you're teaching women this concept of literal leverage, but also I think it's a bigger message of women, we bring a unique energy, we bring a unique set of strengths that we should be leveraging. We don't need to be in competition with men in the traditional sense. Like I think we've gotten into this warped dynamic where oftentimes, especially in some of these male dominated spaces like tech, we're fighting to be more like the men and we get co opted. Like our energy, we become more competitive and super driven and externally focused when our strength is in our intuition, our creativity, our internal power, all the things that you're teaching. So I love that this is the work that you're doing and doing it in a different way.
Yeah, thank you so much for I received that and that's the embodiment piece, right? If you've never been
Mhm.
taught how to stand in your power, I'm like in 2 minutes, if I showed you, here's how you prevent yourself from being abducted, but also just take notice of your body, right? Like I had
Mhm.
two people pulling me
Yes,
and people
I remember that. And I was like, and I'm thinking you gonna get flung like a rag doll. You're like, no.
but what we're really doing is giving women that experience so that when you are in a situation at work or something, that your body remembers that sensation and that feeling. And so what I really am teaching is the art of fighting without aggression. And that's what I
Mm-hmm.
want to dismantle for women. Women come to me
Yeah.
and they're like, I don't want to be aggressive back. I don't want to be dangerous or violent. I was like, it's not about fighting aggression with aggression. Sometimes this is about holding space within
Yes.
yourself and outside, and there's empowerment in silence.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So whatever
Oh,
your instinct is, I'm like, go away from that, right? We're not trying to fight. Ladies, we don't go toe to toe with men.
right.
Okay, I'm not
No.
that kind of martial arts instructor. I'm not going to tell you to go, that you're going to win. Like, girl,
Right.
don't do that. This is
Yeah.
what do you do in order to escape the situation so that you get back home safely to your loved ones, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm saying. I am not here to mislead anyone. I do not want you to believe that you are fearless and unstoppable, because the fact of the matter is pain is real.
Yes.
Pain is real. And the thought of not coming home to my family terrifies me. So I want to teach people a better way so that they are more likely to be able to go home.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so much goodness in that. I want to continue on this thread of the warrior principles, you embodying this theme of being a warrior. So as an international speaker, you've done some transformative work, particularly in Kenya. You went there to speak to the young girls and women as part of the Queen's Rise movement. So why do you think it's important for women and girls to see themselves as warrior, particularly in places around the world where, and you know what, I don't want to answer the question because why do you think it's important for women and girls to see themselves as a warrior?
I think what's beautiful and what we learned, because I've been back to Kenya twice, and in the most recent trip, impacted over 22,000 young people in 9 days. And
Amazing.
the beauty of it is, it's not just women empowerment. What I learned is women empowerment is not just for women, it's also for men and young boys.
Mm,
And I bring that up because when we were there, the young boys were literally like, yeah, you're bringing this and the warrior and the queen here, but don't forget about us, right? And because my focus is on combating gender-based violence, I'm like, it does also entail having allies, men.
yes.
And so
Yes.
then we started really expanding on like, what does it mean to be a king?
Yes.
Right? And
Yes.
a warrior also can be young men. And so what was fantastic is that not only did I learn that this principle of a warrior transcended, right? Like the message sticks to kids in Kenya and even when I've been in places in Southeast Asia, because it's not about violence. It's about knowing your worth and
Mhm.
and owning your story and to be able to that it's your birthright to be powerful, to lead and to
Mm.
live free. And so the warriorness really I will tell you this, the first time I went, I was like, I'm going to be an international speaker. I step in front of 3,000 young people at a school, our favorite school, the Manga Girl School. They're like, you've got 7 minutes.
Mm.
And I'm like, what am I going to say? Right.
Oh,
And I had such a terror inside of me.
oh,
What could I
I
possibly
imagine.
offer these kids? And here's where I'm going to bring in the spiritual life. There's something about being in Kenya that is also just brings these visceral responses to me. There's so much connection between Asia, Africa, and I felt it when I was there.
Mm.
I have been doing self-healing work for a couple of years leading up to that moment, and we did this higher self work. And up until that moment, I didn't even know what that meant, but right across from that field, I did see my higher self.
Mm.
Cannot explain it.
Mm.
Then boom, I step in and I give the best talk that I ever gave in 6 minutes and 4 seconds, right? And at the end of the talk, I was like, I don't even know what's come over me. At least six girls just start following me, right? And I'm like, what, what I did? Are y'all all right? Right? All right. Because I still hadn't even thought of myself as a warrior yet, right? Up until that moment, right? I've humble. And I said, hi. And they said, we just want to walk alongside the warrior.
Mm. Oh my gosh. Ah.
And that was the moment that I realized this concept and how I teach about fighter versus warrior, the methodology. What's beautiful about it is that it is global. You can
Mhm.
be, because being part of an underrepresented and underserved group transcends the US,
Yes.
right? And so what's beautiful is that when you go to somewhere like that, that I knew that my impact could be more.
Mm.
And so for these kids, they want to feel strong. A lot of them were orphans. A lot of them had been victims of gender-based violence.
Yeah.
And so this message of of you're worth fighting for, and, to not necessarily be a fighter and feel like you have to overpower others and do this, like that, it's rooted in their history as well. And so when I was
Yes.
there and I kind of made references to warriors, female, like African warrior queens, they knew it. And that's
Mhm.
where I was like,
Mhm.
there's something to this. Like, doesn't matter what culture you're part of. If you were part of a marginalized community, this message resonates.
Yes. Oh, wow. I you're a fantastic storyteller, by the way, because I'm just like I'm with you. I'm seeing you in front of the girls, and I'm seeing you recognize your higher self and let that spirit come up and come through you. And that's such a beautiful example because I believe that was just the pure you, like you walking in your purpose. You said that earlier that you feel like this work is your purpose. And that was just a perfect example of that. And I would ask people who are listening to think about when is the last time you felt that? Because that's really powerful. That's what we're here for, is to find and stand in that authentic power. And when you do, it just flows. How like you just dropped bar after bar apparently in the 6 minutes before, like it was just like this complete mic drop moment. And so much so you had these little queens in development come and want to be warriors like you. And so thank you for sharing that. Wow. Um, it's interesting you're talking about young people who you clearly have a passion for. You just wrote a children's book. So I want to hear, what is the book about and what inspired it?
Woo! So I wrote a book. It's called I Have the Heart of a Warrior: Affirmations to Empower Kids.
Mm.
And it is a book really rooted in social emotional learning principles, but it basically helps kids develop an affirmation practice. It's
Ooh.
it's rooted in courage, consent, and it's for every child who's ever been told they're too sensitive, too loud, too different. So it's beautifully illustrated from a woman in Turkey. There's so many scenarios in the books that we probably faced when we were kids, like, oh, I can't get this math problem right, and how do we reframe it, right? What inspired the book was really after I came back from Toronto, where I met you. I wrote this book on a napkin on the flight back
Oh my God. I love it. I love it.
because as a mom and as someone who, I do more continued healing work and more open to what will flow through me, it just downloaded into myself that what are the words that I needed to hear
Mm.
growing up, right? Like, we talked about suppression earlier. I didn't hear I love you until I was well into my mid 20s,
Mhm.
maybe, right? But I wanted it as a legacy for my own children to know who the F I am,
Yes.
right? And I've never seen a book with Asian kids in it.
Oh
So
my
I wanted a book where other Asian kids could have a main character, but the book
God.
is much more than that. Like there's brown kids in it, black kids, kids of different body types. I wanted something that was not just something for kids in the US, and especially because I feel so strongly about kids globally. And
Yeah.
so, wrote the book and then launched a Kickstarter. Don't know anything about Kickstarter, literally don't.
Yeah.
And really is like, well, what if a global movement can be built around a children's book?
Mm.
And so we just successfully funded our Kickstarter to allow um, a buy one, give one model. So
Uh,
some people pledged, and by buying one, they're allowing that book to be printed in places like Kenya to
mm.
support a local printer. And the Kickstarter successfully funded. My goal was to translate the book in 6 languages, major languages. The first two that it'll be will be Swahili, so that the kids that
Beautiful.
I do come back to can read it. And then the second will be Spanish, and then Bengali, Urdu, Mandarin.
Mm.
Like it just became something that I felt like, as I think about my own wounds and being a warrior, I'm like, I can't push away the discomfort I feel and all these things. Like, it's a lot of vulnerabilities that have been stirring up for me in my warrior journey.
Ooh,
And
gosh.
so this book is for every kid who's ever felt abandoned or unheard or unseen.
Mm. So much there to so much goodness there. Um, First of all, the thought of still being a warrior and vulnerable, or and maybe that is the whole point. Maybe that is the the necessary component, because the way you describe warrior, I think, flips on its head what we think about strength and power. And so I love that you talked about just being very cognizant of your own wounds, and I think our wounds come up to the surface not only because they need to be healed, but also when we're going through something tough. I feel like that's when the wounds come up to really force us to move forward and move past them. And so I wanted to name that, or just bring that back to the forefront, because I think it's coming up more for people right now, like with everything going on and people questioning, like, what the F, what is going on? Like, what is going on in the world? And I think that's leading people to question what it is they're here to do. And I love that you're an example of, when you allow those things to come up and you work with them, not against them, that beauty can come out. And I also wanted to just name that you did something really, really big, Leslie, and really scary. And I'm so enamored with people who hear the call, and you said, like, you got this download and it just came to you on the plane ride back from Toronto. So not only did you listen to this, clearly, to me, that was your spirit talking to you, or the divine, or both. You heard it, and then you decided that you had to do something with it. And not everybody hears the call, or they hear it and dismiss it, but then for you to go further, and you didn't know how you were going to get it done. You didn't even know that, like, you, like, this whole Kickstarter journey. Just, I just had to name that for the audience and make it really plain that this is what you're doing is incredible, but it's also achievable for all of us. The difference is that you actually had the courage to just move forward in faith and not have all the answers.
Mm. Yeah. Um, Thank you. I receive that. There's so much power in surrendering,
Mm,
and it's beautiful what I'm feeling right now because I'm tearing up, and
mm.
it's because so much of my life has been survival mode and what I call fighter, right? And
Yeah.
so anytime I would feel these things, our instinct is to push it out, to push it
Yes.
away, or
Yes.
if somebody hurts us, push them away,
Hmm.
or if something hurts us, we abandon ship.
Yes.
But the discomfort I've been feeling for the last, specifically the last 5 years of consciously trying to challenge these parts of me, um, is because I don't, I think what's interesting about trauma and pain is that we don't want to be stuck there.
Yeah.
And so I want to honor people where they're at, right? Like I have had so much loneliness and pain and mental health struggle. Um, and it's not until I prioritize creating space for myself and not feeling selfish about that.
Yes.
Um, I really did have to look at me as Leslie, little girl. And when I think about this book, I just get, I get, I, I get, I get so emotional because as soon as I saw the book, I just, I released because it's like, that's what I needed. Um, I I think that people have so much more capacity emotionally, psychologically, and spiritually than they know.
Yes.
So I want to honor everyone in their journey that it's not linear and it doesn't look the same way for everyone. And that's why this book is just a testament to, hey, this is what, in my experiences, this is my offering to the world, and my own children. And yes, challenging the notion of a warrior has been a huge blessing to soften me,
Yeah.
right? I think
Yeah.
when we think of warriors, we think of hard.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so I want everyone to understand there is soft and hard, and there's bright and dark, and part of this meditative spiritual side of me that is deeply rooted. It's just I didn't know it
Yes.
has helped me expand. And so if you're feeling that discomfort in the pit of your stomach, if you want to poop your pants, if all of these things, I would challenge people to start being open to the fact that that's expansion,
Hmm.
then rather than the urge to resist. Just like if someone's trying to fist fight you, our fighter instincts come out, right? Our little stick, our
Yes.
little spears. And I'm like, okay, those are our primitive instincts,
Yes.
but when we feel hurt and we feel pain, go towards it.
Yes.
Just like if someone is grabbing you and pulling you, which you saw me teach, that is the physical self-defense technique. I taught you to go towards.
Yes.
Counterintuitive,
It is very
right?
counterintuitive.
So that's why I'm like, if I have to spend the rest of my life relaying this message to people and it could help just one person save their life emotionally or their actual physical life, I feel like my purpose has been fulfilled.
Mm. You just gave such deep spiritual wisdom that I hope people hearing this, watching this, sit with that. Because I can't let that go over people's heads, and hopefully it hits them right in the spirit where it's meant to hit them right in the heart space, because it is it is being able to hold yourself in the pain, be in the eye of the storm, and lean into that pain and discomfort that does help us not only weather the storm, but get through it and expand from it, expand out of it. And so that's very much been the lesson I've been learning over the last 4 years, since my husband died, to have to not stay in it, but you got to sit in the pain to really process it. You can't alchemize it until you really sit with it and unpack it and understand it. Then you can fully release it. And so, woo, okay. And it sounds like this book is for big people too. So it sounds like
I
anyone,
know.
right? Like anyone who needs to reparent their inner child, like so for the big boys and girls, they need to get this book too.
Yeah, that's what's the trip. I tell people, I'm like, it's a children's book, but whether you are the parent, whether you are the auntie or the uncle or the community organizer or the teacher, there's something in reading it to the young people that helps heal us. And I've been starting to
Mm.
get this feedback from people, right? Like it's much more that
Uh,
it's a very beautiful book. And they're like, it's very intentional and full of love and they feel that. And so as people read and snag the book, I'm like, take notice of how, because someone's like, these affirmations are hitting, Leslie,
right.
they're hitting.
Right.
And I'm like, I guarantee you in the book, there's probably at least a couple. And so just take inventory of that, of like, how would that one affirmation perhaps like shifted the way my trajectory of my life would have been, or maybe what I would have invested into myself. So that's the beauty of it. The book itself is a tool to help us heal.
Okay, well, you'll have to send me the link because I want to make sure I put it in the show notes so that when people are listening and watching this episode, they have to go get it. They have to go get it, especially if it's going to be a gift that they then give that gets given to other people. So, wow. Uh, oh my goodness. Um, so many places we can go, but you're busy. We got to keep you moving. There's other things that you need to be doing. So, as a busy mom, wife, author, speaker, warrior, bad, I was gonna say bad me, baddie, and so much more. How do you maintain your bliss and this newfound spiritual purpose? How do you maintain that in the midst of everything that's coming at you and all the people that you serve and care for?
Mm. I no longer chase balance.
Ooh,
I
say
honor,
more.
I honor rhythms.
Mm,
So I feel like work-life balance is a myth. And truly where I created peace for myself was understanding that it's about life integration.
yes.
So some days looks like breath work and journaling and moment to moment. Other days it's like me crying in my bathtub, staying grounded and remembering my why, my kids, my ancestors. There's moments of me holding gratitude for myself.
Mm,
There's rhythm of me giving myself permission to rest, to receive. And I found that bliss isn't found in perfection. It's found in presence.
mm. Uh, Beautifully, beautifully said. I just had to let that even sit on my spirit for a second before I responded because presence is something that I think is really all that there really is. All we really have is the present moment. But even deeper than that, our physical presence. It goes back to what we talked about earlier, embodiment, our focus, our energy being harnessed in the present moment to be here and experience what we're experiencing in the moment. And I get so much joy out of just being present with myself now. I spent so many years, similar to you, I was in corporate for almost 20 years, and I felt like I was always chasing, and I would always feel guilty about, oh, I couldn't do it all. And then these messages started to come of like, oh, work life balance. And to your point, how do you, there is no, you get more stress trying to be balanced than just being present with yourself and what do I need. And I find now when I wake up, when I first started as an entrepreneur, I was leading my daily life similar to corporate, feeling like I have to get up at a certain time and I have to do so many meetings, I have to do this, da, 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 da. And now I just get up and yes, I have things that I want to accomplish for the week, but I'm so fluid with it. Unless it's like today we were scheduled to do this podcast. So I knew that, you know, I had this on my schedule, but this morning I woke up, I could have gotten up and done yoga, but this morning I felt like not rushing because I had a meeting a little bit earlier in the morning. And so I now wake up with, okay, what do I feel like doing first thing this morning? What does my body need? Do I need yoga? Do I need to meditate first thing? Can I do some breath work or do I do that stuff later in the day? So it really is a presence and feeling what I need. And there's such freedom and like you said, bliss and just going with the flow. So I love that.
Absolutely. We're
I love
present with
that.
one another. I mean,
Hmm.
even in me multitasking, I always have to be mindful of my children, right?
Yes.
Because they're such uh, good understanders of energy. And
Yes.
so I am doing them a disservice and people I love if I get so caught up in multitasking and the stuff. But um, I empower women to not only attach that value to others and serving others and doing a thing. I'm like, you got to take that same prioritization and presence within yourself. So I love what you
Yes.
said. I'm like, I personally love eating a meal by myself. I never used to
Yes.
have that kind of joy when I was in corporate. I just shoving food in my face, but there's just
Right.
there's something beautiful of me just being able to embrace that and be like,
Yes.
cool, I'm here eating a meal by myself.
Eat a meal. Oftentimes I go out when the day, when it's sunny, I go out on my back patio and just eat my lunch and just listen to the birds and like, I have trees in my backyard and just breathe and enjoy the sunshine. And that's very rejuvenating for me. And it feels like I feel like such a badass, honestly, when I'm doing whatever I want to do. So I offer that to women similarly to you. I think there's power in just doing what we want to do. There's power in our freedom because we've been constrained and constricted for so long, at least speaking for me and many of the women I know. So when I take my agency and say, no, I'm not going to eat in this stuffy little break room or for those who are still working at, a job, go outside, go take a walk, use your agency and find those little moments of joy and they snowball. So
Block your calendar and don't let anyone block your time. And
hello.
just tell them you got to reschedule that meeting. That was the other thing that I learned is like, just
Yes.
because you schedule it doesn't mean I have to take it.
That part. Oh my gosh. We could give a whole little workshop, a little sermon real quick about because that's it. That's I have this model where I talk about time ownership because it's that. It's not even managing. I feel women, we can manage our time very well. I think where we struggle is to own our time and own our calendar and not let people, override what it is we want to do and need to do for ourselves. So I love that. Um, with that, what is one final piece of advice that you would give a young girl or a woman who is struggling to own her personal power or set those boundaries that are needed for her to live the life that she desires?
Hmm. All right, y'all ready? Y'all ready?
Get your pen and paper or your notes app.
You are the ancestor that someone prayed for. And
Mm.
don't dim your light to fit into rooms that were never meant for you to thrive in the first place. Build your own table or burn theirs down and dance in the ashes.
Girl, I just got so happy thinking of dancing in some corporate ashes. I'm telling you, just wow. And such a beautiful sentiment that we are the ancestors that someone prayed for. Did I say that right?
Hmm.
Okay. Because how beautiful in that we get to define what that looks like for us, and man, we get to live our life. I think about that too often, the ancestors coming from an ancestral line of enslaved Africans. I think about my ancestors not too far back, even to an extent, my mother didn't get a chance to fully live her dream. Her mother, dad, and then you start getting into the institution of slavery. And so Black women, Black men, Black people didn't have that agency. And I feel so privileged to be in this day and age where I have the freedom to decide what it is I do and how I show up. And so I don't take that lightly at all. I feel very privileged, very blessed to be my ancestors' dream, and hopefully be the ancestor that others are looking back to, that she paved the way and she knocked it out of the park. And so thank you for that. Um, Girl, I know that people are going to want to connect with you, follow your work and get the book. How can people find and stay connected with you?
On Facebook, Leslie Lew. You see how this is spelled? Lew, Liu Tang Clan. So Leslie Lew on Facebook, and on Instagram, Reclaiming Your Courage, one word. Okay. So you can follow me there. I don't dance. I don't do that. And then my website, if so, yeah, the ways that people can work with me all throughout the year is really centered around keynotes and speaking, workshops and retreats. I have one coming up later this year in Thailand. And so if you head to www.reclaimingyourcourage.com, scope it out. You could see some of my talks at Harvard and in Kenya, but also just sign up for a newsletter on empowerment and these nuggets, but also just like what's happening so that you can join in on something happening virtually or locally.
Oh, I love it. For y'all listening, watching, please connect with Leslie on these platforms. She is the real deal. You can see that, you can feel that, and she's even more incredible in person. Like, so thank you. I couldn't be more just thankful to count you as a friend and just to watch you continue to light up the world as the warrior queen, just beautiful soul that you are.
I received that. I love you, girl, and we are we're gonna raise the energy in any sphere that we walk into. So thank you so much.
I love it. I love it. Thank you. And I hope y'all enjoy. Take care.